everybody. Welcome back to Formula Femme Fatale. This is Kiki, and we've got Nat here. And this week
Hello.
we're going to talk about Barcelona, the Spanish Grand Prix.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
And unfortunately, neither of us got to go physically to this one. And I missed most of it this morning because I was not feeling the best, had a little bit of bug, but doing much better now. And so we're gonna talk about it. And there's a few heartbreaks that happened after this one. We'll talk about Yuki especially. That one is ridiculous. I can't get over that. And those of you who watched it obviously know already that Yuki, he's just one of those. I just feel bad every time anything feel bad for. Like I'm so empathic towards him. He seems like such a sweet soul, and he did not deserve this. But anyways,
Protect him at all costs. Also,
protect yes, protect Yuki at all costs.
he he's so funny too. Like he's so funny without trying. There's a video where they're all the racers are interviewed. What's your goal? What's your dream? And they're all world champion, world champion, world champion, and just Yuki. I want to open a
What a
restaurant.
restaurant.
Like you can. Like you have the money to start one. Just do it.
Protect that man.
Lewis Hamilton has restaurants.
I
They're
did
all
not
like
know that.
yeah, they're like vegan burger places.
Ooh, that sounds great actually.
Right?
Since
I think
neither
there's
you
one in
or
New York.
I are big on red meat, like
I cannot.
I can rarely. I think that's why I felt so terrible last night because we had a cookout and I ate a
Oh,
lot of red meat. So
that's where it is. But
probably, honestly.
some little things about the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. They removed the like iconic chicane, so it was a little bit of a different turn. So that was interesting. There's not many spots for overtaking, but it's not like Monaco, where like Monaco, there's like nowhere. But you could overtake in turn one, four, and five, I believe it was. So there were
Yeah.
still some spots. Qualifying, Max Verstappen, again, shocker, but again, he's killing it. Can't really
Max
hate on
on
him.
pole. I'm just used to it at this point. Like he might as well open up a pole studio. Little joke there.
At this point, it's almost like whoever gets P2 is on pole because Max is always on pole, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's
But
Max is the default. We're just following him. He's the pacer.
basically, but this was a home Grand Prix for two of our racers, Fernando Alonso and Carlos Chili Pepper
Carlos.
Sainz. Woo woo. Love both of them. So qualifying went very well for a few people. Um,
Yeah. Speaking
Again,
of
Max
Carlos,
was on pole.
especially Carlos
Um,
P2, first ever front row at his home race. Atta boy.
and then P3 for Lando.
Right? Like, good job. Much better.
Well,
Much better.
I know they're proving that they have it, but it's just the car, I think. But there was actually a clip after qualifying of Max looking back to see who got second and third, and he had to do a double take. And he like even in an interview, he was like, I was not expecting Lando up in P3. Actually, let me rephrase that. I wasn't expecting McLaren. I always expect
Yep.
Lando to be up high. And I was like, he thinks so highly of Lando. That makes me so happy.
Well,
But that,
all the racers do. Like Lando, he's a spot on guy. It's just again McLaren, the cars,
a tractor.
they are absolutely tractors, which,
But that was the highest McLaren start in Spain since 2011.
very impressive. We're seeing a lot of that this year though. We're seeing a lot of firsts and a lot of once
Hmm.
evers. The last race we had, our first ever Frenchman on podium since '96. This time we've got, McLaren starting up third. Like I'm here for it. I love the
Don't get your
history.
hopes up. Don't get your hopes up because it gets worse.
It does.
Ah, Pierre Gasly had two separate instances. I can't remember exactly what they were because I'm still on Monaco time, so I'm all kinds of wonky with sleeping. Um, but he got a six grid penalty, so he started in P10. But without that penalty, he would have been in P4, which is impressive still.
And then P19.
We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to talk about it. That was his first
When
time
I
dropping out of Q1 since Monaco 2019.
when I saw that, I well, number one, I knew you were going to be heartbroken because,
Shocker,
you know,
Ferrari's breaking my heart.
well, I think Ferrari fans, like, we just have to understand that we're in it for Ferrari and the drivers. We're not in it to win it.
We were last year.
And that's how you get the
Fine.
fans, though. You gotta have a good season every now and then. It's just, this
Oh,
is
I
not it.
agree. But they also, so Charles Leclerc started from the pit lane. Again, first time dropping out of Q1 since Monaco 2019. But there were some changes to the car. They changed the side pods and it was a little different. You know how normally the Ferrari car is like wide bodied?
Yep.
They slimmed it down a little bit.
Which, at least that shows that Ferrari is taking the initiative to change the car in the first place. Like, we've been beating on them for the entire season to do. Was this the time? Obviously not, but
But yeah, I
we'll
mean, Charles was talking about in the practices that it felt fine, like he was doing fine. Carlos did great in qualifying. But so in free practice three yesterday morning, he did fine. And then in an interview after qualifying yesterday, he was saying that he was having issues with the left-hand corners. He was having issues
yep.
with balance difficulty, issues with the rear. And he even said, and I quote, I think there's something wrong. I will be very surprised if the car was fine. So I don't think it was anything with the car itself. I think there was just something that went wrong between practice and qualifying. And
And
he,
maybe too, maybe it was just, driver adjustments with the new additions to the car.
right. And I mean, he did fine. I mean, he made up paces in the race, but we'll get to that. Um, Yuki Tsunoda, he lost control of his car in Q1 on turn 11. And I was like, no.
Oh,
And then
bless that
Valtteri
man.
and Nick DeVries also lost control of their car in Q1 on turn 11.
That's so unfortunate. But again, that just shows that's the track at that point, and that's all driver. That's nothing to do with the cars. Unfortunately,
Right.
that's all driver.
Well, even in the formation lap during the like before the race this morning, George Russell was looking at an alternate turn instead of going inner, he was going outer and he actually spun out into the gravel right before, like during not the formation lap, but to get onto the grid to do the formation lap, he spun out into the gravel just
Interesting.
on that.
So I did see a comment that somebody was saying they thought he did that on purpose to test out in case he had to go into the gravel on an
And
overtake.
that makes sense. I mean, I could see it. I wouldn't put
And
it past him.
no, and you know what? I get it. There's nothing to lose at that point, and it's kind of hilarious. And to be honest, something I could see him doing, but
Right. And then, as we have mentioned in the past two episodes, Logan Sargent in P20 again.
oh, Logan. Honestly,
At
at this
this point,
point,
there's nothing even more we can say about it. He needs to get it together.
he really does, and I feel for him. It's your rookie year. It's a tough one, and he is having a brutal first year.
I think if he was in a different car, he would do great.
I think so too. If he was in even Mercedes or Ferrari or definitely in Red Bull, I think he would be doing much better. I think he'd be
I
getting
agree.
at least points
I think
like
it's the
on,
car.
I think it's the car.
But that's kind of all I have on the qualifying because I mean, qualifying was pretty good for the most part. I mean, biggest thing was Carlos getting the highest ever start in his home race. That's amazing. And then Lando just made my heart so happy. You could see that he was so excited and so proud. I mean, it's been a while since McLaren was doing that well. I mean, I don't think they've done that well since Danny Rick left.
After seeing the qualifying results, I was super excited for this race, but I also was venting a little bit because not gonna bash on any teams, and I'm excited for all of them, but Red Bull, man, shake it up a little bit.
Right? Just give us a little something, something. Give us a little taste of something else. Um, Unfortunately, Lando's excitement was short-lived. Lap one, turn one. Hamilton and Lando make contact, and immediately Lando's on the radio. I've got damage and pit and needed a new front wing and went to P20 immediately. And it was heartbreaking.
Which, yeah, I mean, especially you take such a high from starting where he was, and so depressing.
Yeah, I
But
mean, but they're proving that they still have it for the like for some a little bit. I mean, he even said in an interview afterwards that he was like, I wasn't expecting to win. I wasn't expecting to stay in P3. Unfortunately, it's just we
to
just had
go
a
that
lucky
far,
day.
yeah, to go
He's like,
that
we had a
far
lucky
back,
day.
I don't think it was luck that got him there.
No,
Come on,
I think
Lando.
I think he's a phenomenal driver. He's just I honestly think if he left McLaren, people talk about when drivers leave teams, did it ruin their career or did it help their career? And unfortunately, I know that Lando loves McLaren as a team, but I really think that if he left, it would be amazing for his career.
Exactly. Like he's so loyal to McLaren, but clearly they're not as loyal to him, or they would fix what they could with the cars and they would get
Right,
him set up for winning.
right. Then the hairpin in lap 4, Lance Stroll came up into P3, and I was like, oh, all right, go
That's
you.
new. Yeah.
Like, good for you. Um, Lando Norris actually ended up getting fastest lap for 4 and 5,
So he was
even though
trying, he was making a
he was
comeback.
pushing. He was pushing. Um, lap 7, Charles Leclerc up 3 positions. Woo woo.
Atta boy, Charles.
He ended up placing 12th, I believe. I haven't looked since the penalty for Yuki, but I'm pretty sure he was up there. He worked his way from 19th. He was pushing hard. I'm
Good
very
for
proud of him for that.
him. And again,
Carlos was killing it. He lap 13, he was holding good pace. And then of course Ferrari had to pit them or whatever. They did a double pit again at this race, and I was like, why? Why do we do this?
it's got to be some like I know there's strategy in that, but at the same time, I would rather have one teammate out to try and hold position. Like
I
I
agree.
I don't see why you would push your whole team to the back. And
Hmm.
again, I know teams like to try to keep the drivers together because they can make enough gaps for people to get through. But yeah, this strategy hasn't worked out for them in past races. I'm not sure why they keep doing this.
No. Um, I hate saying this, but I think they need a new strategist.
I would agree with you. After the past three races alone, I think it's time.
I mean, going from second in having a racer in second place in the World Championship and then being, I'm pretty sure, the leader of the World Constructors Championship last year to kind of being a contender.
Yep.
I mean, you have to reevaluate.
I agree. And it's like
Um,
if one or not both of your cars aren't getting points every race, like something's wrong.
right. And we both know that Carlos and Charles are both great drivers, or else they wouldn't be driving for such a prestigious team. It's the cars.
It is the cars. And we know
And
it's the cars.
I mean,
Everybody knows it's the cars.
it's the cars and the strategy. Fix them.
Yep. Yeah,
But he was holding a
otherwise you're
good
wasting
pace
away these great drivers and you're ruining their careers for nothing.
and you're burning them out.
You are burning them out. I mean, look at Charles. Like he's trying his best and he's showing and qualifying that he can do it. And then they're letting Ferrari is letting him down. They are letting their drivers down.
Oh, 100%. And then also the FIA just throwing out like penalties and grids and
Listen,
everything.
listen. The FIA this race, I can't. I want to talk to somebody. Let me speak to somebody.
I just want to talk. Sorry, I'm scooching
Yeah,
up closer. It got really dark outside really quickly, and I don't want to get up and turn my light on. So I'm gonna just scoot closer to the camera because that's how I do things. But Carlos was holding P2 for a good pace on lap 13. or lap 13 against Max Verstappen, and I was like, yes, home race, let's do it. He ended up not getting
And
podium, but he still got pretty high up, which I think is amazing for a home race.
also, that was probably the last time in this race that anybody got close to Max for a while. So
For a while. Um, lap 21, George Russell talking about that he didn't want to pit and that he was like, I can improve the lap time, like I don't want to pit, this and that. And Mercedes let him go with that. They trusted their driver. And
see, again, Ferrari, take notes.
I think more teams should do that, where
Mercedes out of
they have
everybody.
instinct.
So I'll say Mercedes out of everybody has the best strategist that I've seen this season so far. Like we all know Red Bull has the amazing car and that's what they're doing. Like the car is, 90% of it, but that strategy really pushes you to the end. And with the way for our Mercedes has been and how often they've been on podium this season or having their drivers both finish in like the top six, like their strategists know what they're doing. And it's
Right.
because they trust their drivers, especially somebody like Hamilton. Hamilton's a great driver.
Phenomenal. I mean, if he wasn't, he wouldn't have 7 world championships. And it like yes, there's a reason they have strategists, but there's also a reason these are your drivers. Like they have instincts, they know what they're doing, or else they wouldn't be
Yes,
here. But he was
exactly.
saying that he didn't want to pit because he's like, I can improve the lap time. And then turn one of lap 24 in my notes, I have that Pierre Gasly did an amazing overtake of Nick DeVries. I mean, it was a tight squeeze for a second, but he pulled through and went ahead, and I was like, wow, that was amazing. Good job.
I definitely missed that one. Unfortunately, I wish I would have been there to see that. I meant to catch the rest of it, but I
It
haven't
was
gotten
pretty
caught
good.
up because I was not feeling my greatest.
That's okay. I wrote enough down for the both of us. Um, lap 27, I wrote down that Max Verstappen pit, and he still came out in P1 after pitting because of how big the gap was between him and Checo.
Which again, that's why I said like Max, he just floored it. He was gone. This whole race, like there was nobody touching him. Like
Hmm.
by the time I was able to catch what I could, like I knew what it was going to be. I knew where
You
Max was
turn
going
the
to be.
TV on and you're like, Max is winning. Okay, who's in second, first place?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Um,
not
ne
who's second, who's in second first place, who's in the real first
exactly,
place because the pacer is 30 seconds ahead of everybody.
exactly. I think one of my favorite moments of this entire race was George Russell and his commentary. Um, before I get into this one, he did an overtake. I cannot remember what lap, but he overtook. Oh, actually, it was lap 35. So lap 35, George Russell overtakes Carlos Sainz, and they said, um, "Good job." And he was like, "Good job. That's it. That was good."
Give me more.
But
That was fantastic.
yeah, and then lap 28, he comes on the radio and he says, "Rain at turn 5." Nobody else is reporting rain. And we're all just like, I mean, it's a little cloudy and a little gloomy, and they were expecting maybe some rain, possibly, kind of like Monaco, where it was kind of just up in the air. And then lap 32, George Russell comes back on the radio. He goes, "Is anyone else reporting rain? I reckon it might be sweat."
The car is sweating, the humans are sweating.
He was sweating so bad in the car that he thought it was rain.
Oh, bless him.
Also, George, I have a question for you. If it's raining, how is it getting inside your helmet?
You know
How's
what?
the rain
They
getting
they've
inside the
got
helmet?
they've got a one-track mind on the circuit, and logic goes out the window. Again, instincts. We're talking instincts. These boys
No,
are relying on instincts.
I I agree, but
Instinct
it's just like so funny.
instinct knows nothing of common sense.
No, I agree. I think it was so funny where it's rain at turn 5, couple laps later. Anybody else reporting rain? I think it's just me sweating. Oh, love
Poor
George
man.
Russell for that. And then another funny. mean, it wasn't like funny commentary, but Carlos Sainz popped on the radio. And usually when Carlos or Charles, as Ferrari fans know, if those pop up, it's usually heartbreak. Um, but
Everything Ferrari is heartbreaking.
yes, but he popped on the radio and he says, find the best way to beat Checo. And that was it. That was it.
Well, there's his priorities.
He was because Checo was in second and he was in third at that point. He was like, find the best way to beat him. Like that's all he cared about. Like, I mean, go you.
Again,
Um,
one track mind, these boys.
uh, yes. For all my Lando girlies out there, including myself, lap 38, he was still P19. And
Oh,
I think that just goes to show like what we were talking about earlier, it's the car. Because I mean, he qualified in P3 and then for the majority of the race, he was at the bottom. Lap one was detrimental to McLaren. Oscar Piastri he did great.
I mean, good
Like
for him, but
it's still heartbreaking. And
yeah,
then
and
two laps later, Lando gets lapped by Max.
which again, Max, I don't know what the car was on because you can't tell me you're putting normal fuel in that thing.
They're putting it's jokes on you. It's actually Elon Musk made that car and it's a SpaceX prototype.
Oh,
That's what
great.
it is.
And I should be tracking it.
That's what it is. It's not an actual car. It's a SpaceX prototype, is what I'm convinced about. Then lap 42, we had the double pit from Ferrari, and they switched both Carlos and Charles to hard tires, which, if anybody knows anything about Ferrari in the car, like we talked about in Miami race, that car does not do well with hard tires.
No, and they've made this mistake so many times this season.
I agree. Everybody knows that car does not do well with hard tires. Why do we keep going back to them for long periods of time? Just because they last long periods of time. I think they would have done better if they stuck to medium.
No, I agree. I mean, we've brought this up how many times now in past podcasts, like leave them on medium, soft to medium, or hard, switch it to medium. But like
Right.
medium should be the majority of your race,
I mean,
at least for
Pushed
Ferrari.
pretty hard. Charles pushed pretty hard on soft for a while, and I think he did a really good job with that. And Carlos was on medium, but switching to hard, again, we've seen it be detrimental, and we don't know how it's going to act with this new upgrades and tires and stuff in a race.
And maybe that's what they were banking on. They were banking on it being different this time, but
Right.
unfortunately, it did not take the cake.
Well, then we had some issues with our SpaceX boy, Max. Um,
Dodo, Max
Max
Verstappen.
Verstappen. Turn five twice. He went off the track limit twice on turn five, and he had a little warning. Later on, it was I'm trying to find where it was in my notes. I can't find it, but at some point during the race, oh, he got a
Black and
black
white
and
flag.
white flag.
Yeah.
Third
Turn
track
10.
limit warning for 10. Uh, it and then he was trying to push for fastest lap, in which I get, but also at the same time, Max, you are like you're pushing 30 seconds ahead of everybody. Like you don't need
Well, that's
fastest lap.
exactly like at that point, like is it over ambition that's getting him? Is he getting too complacent being that far ahead, or is he just getting tired and just making these decisions because he's starting to wear down from just trying to keep full?
Right. And I really don't know, but he kept asking like on the radio, he'd just be like, "Oh, what term?" I think he knew he was doing it, but didn't realize how often he was doing it.
Yes,
And
I would agree.
I think he was just trying to challenge himself. It's like, let's
And
see
that's
how far I
fair.
can really push it.
And especially when you're that far ahead, like, yeah, you do have some leeway for, playing around and trying to beat your limits. But at the same time, like, Max, you got a good thing going. Keep it up.
Hmm
Max
I
don't
mean,
be
I agree.
stopping. Max Verstappen ain't stopping.
That's a good one. That's a good one. This race, there were no safety cars and no yellow flag. Woo woo. So that was fun.
Good job,
L-
men.
right? Stop driving like maniacs. We understand you want to go fast, but like stop hitting each other. Except for Yuki.
Yuki. Okay, but Yuki. So I watched and I
I don't think
rewatched.
that was his fault.
No, I rewatched it, and Joe definitely. So when the overtake happened and he came on the inside, he pulled into Yuki. If you watch it, there like Yuki did not change his trajectory at all. He was going where he was going to go. Joe ran into him.
And Yuki came out after the race saying that he thinks that the penalty was too severe. I mean, it was the same as the penalty that Carlos got a couple races ago, where I mean, he started crying. Like, there's videos of
Yuki
him
looked
like
like he
pulling
was
the
gonna
visor
cry.
down. Like
Yuki looked
Carlos
like he
pulled
was
his
gonna cry.
visor down and cried. Like I would cry too. And
Well, and
Yuki is
honestly,
just so he's such a pure human. Like you know that he didn't mean to, even if it was his fault. Like you could tell he felt bad. But
when you
five
review the
seconds?
footage, when you review the footage though, like I don't understand how they would penalize Yuki and not Joe because he was there. He took, and you know, what's the risk when you overtake? He took the risk. He put himself in that position. He was the one that caused that. Like
I mean, I agree.
there's no other way to look at it. I'm genuinely surprised that they gave that penalty to Yuki. And
Oh,
I
I
it's
agree.
and let alone a penalty that severe.
Yeah, 5 seconds in F1 time is like an eternity.
Exactly. Besides for Max, because he's off
Right. That
doing
five
whatever.
seconds, 5 seconds. Yeah, I mean, he's just hanging out. Um, Another George Russell moment on the radio just comes on. He goes, "Well, I catch him at this pace," meaning Jacob. And they just said, "Yes." And that was it. That was the
Yes.
interaction. "Will I catch him at this pace?" Yes. And that was it. I was like, you know what?
Short,
At
sweet, to the
least,
point.
exactly. That's all you like. You don't even have a full conversation on the radio. And
But
at one
also
point,
LOL at Checo for everybody. Poor Checo. He's just living his life, doing his best.
he's doing great. He's out here living, and we love him for it. Max actually came on the radio and said these hard tires have no grip. I'm sliding all over the place. And then he
Which
pit again, changed tires, and was still out with a 39-second gap between Lewis Hamilton.
that is insanity.
Again, I'm saying it's a SpaceX rocket ship.
But also like his tires would he have worn them down as fast had he not been pushing for fastest lap consistently?
I don't think so. But
Yeah, I
also
don't
he
think
can
so either.
afford it.
He
At
can't
that
afford
point,
it.
he can afford it.
He really can. He's got the gap. Just keep it up. Sorry, I just got distracted. A deer just walked by my window. But I'm back. For
Oh
those of
my
you that
gosh.
don't know, I there's a window right in front of me, and it looks out on a hill, and a deer just decided to. It's watching me. Um, it's listening. It's
Oh,
a Formula One fan. I think it's a Max fan because it
they
perked
came
up
out
at
when we
Max.
were talking about Max.
Okay, so Max, just so you know, the deer in California are Red Bull fans.
Hot Red Bull. Oh wait, no.
No, the
It's a
bucks
deer.
there.
It's a deer. Hmm. Yep. I know my animals.
Well,
Yep.
Nat needs to go back to kindergarten, but that's okay. We're here now.
No,
Moving
thank you.
on. So Max changes tires, still has a ridiculous gap. The defense. All right. So between SD Bestie,
And Fernando.
so
That was kind of wild. Fernando just whipped out to overtake, but I think he like overshot it a little too much just because SD Bestie was defending pretty hard. And he actually like you could see some sparks come out from behind Fernando's
Woo!
car. And I was like, dang, he pushing. They're both pushing pretty hard, and it was impressive. It was a good move.
I'm sad I missed that too.
You're gonna
Rip.
have to go back and watch all of it.
I'm definitely going back because reading about it's not as good as actually seeing it and seeing like the highlights, yet not as good.
Well, I rewatched I mean, I was at the Monaco Grand Prix, but I mean, I didn't see all of it, and we had the TV and stuff, but I didn't hear the commentary. I went back and watched it on the plane home because I was
That's
like, okay,
fair.
I need to hear what they're talking about. How it got really dark in here really fast.
It did. Yeah, you can turn
Welcome
a light
to,
on.
I don't want to get up.
The, the deer
Welcome
is,
to Wyoming. Gets dark really quickly.
it is still sunny here in West Coast, California.
Not here. It was raining earlier too, and it was like gloomy. I was like, this is the perfect day for podcast recording.
Gloomy, cold days. All right,
Mm-hmm.
so moving on. So 39-second gap, we already talked about that. My notes just froze.
Between Yuki and Zhou, they both had DRS behind Esty Bestie. And I think that's when that incident happened when they were trying to like overtake because they were all
Yep.
fighting for that position and he pushed him off the track.
Joe pushed
And so
himself off the
I
track.
I agree, but
He,
I mean, there's nothing that we can do.
he saw
And
a gap, he tried to take it, and it didn't end up the way he hoped.
no, and I mean, yeah, would I have liked to see it go differently? I would have. And the penalty really sucks for Yuki, but also Joe got points. He got points today. Good for him. He was
No,
P10.
yeah, good for him. I'm happy, but I just wish it hadn't been under those circumstances.
I agree. I mean, he saw and like we said earlier, like they have instinct. And I think he was following an instinct at that point, thinking that he could do it without like anything happening. And he shot for it. You have to take risks sometimes. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, he's right there. I could overtake him or I could try, but I'm not going
And who
to.
knows? I mean, Yuki was holding his ground. He might have been playing chicken, and both of them just went for it, very hard
Hmm.
heads.
Yep. But Max won again after lap 66. So right as he was about to win, he lapped Charles, who was in P12. It's
Rip.
like, damn, he's zooming. He's on a move. But he won
Which
again. And then double podium for Mercedes.
there we go, Mercedes.
That's
Finally.
what we want. Like, that's what we're looking for you guys. Lewis Hamilton, P2, chef's kiss. Love that. George Russell, beautiful. Made me
Which
so
Lewis kind of
happy.
came out of nowhere in this race.
He did. He was just like doing his thing, and then boom, it was like he was doing his thing, and then all of a sudden the race was over P2, and I was like, what happened? Where did
But
that
can
come
we
from?
appreciate, like, at this point when I'm sitting on my couch trying to come back to life with my coffee, and I realize, and I had to go double back and rewind and watch again when they said that Max had a 24.090 second lead. I could not wrap my head around that. That
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton, for as great as a driver as he is and how good Mercedes' car is, was 24, almost 25 seconds. Well, 24.1. I can do math. Math is hard. Public math is worse. 24 seconds behind Max Verstappen.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I mean, he closed the gap for a little bit, but I mean, at this point, there is no holding up to Max.
No, not even
So,
a
like
little
we
bit.
said, it's second, first place.
It is.
But it made me so happy to have Lewis Hamilton back on the podium. Like he's such an icon and such a like
He really is.
I was speechless. I was so
He
happy.
he really is. And again, like it's just good to see when a whole team gets to be on the podium together. Like what a win for Mercedes today. Red Bull, we knew what you were going to do. We're
Right.
used to at this point. We're really rooting for 2 and 3.
I mean, a double point for Mercedes and Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Carlos ended up in P5 for, I mean, yeah, he wasn't in the race, but in P5 in a home race, I played P2 with how many struggles and not easy over Lewis Hamilton and George Russell coming out of nowhere with their rocket ships. I think P5 is not the issues that they were
No,
having.
I think P5 was great for him.
And
Overall,
Joe
like he
in the
did great
point,
this race.
heck yeah. I think it was an interesting race. It
Yeah. Pause, you cut out. Can't hear you.
What about now?
Yep.
I think my AirPods died.
Whoops. Well, we could cut that out.
Whoopsies.
Anyways, again, the biggest heartbreak for this race though was Yuki and Joe. Still great for Joe to get points, but I really think the FIA needs to take a look again at what they've done to Yuki because that was harsh.
I don't like that their automatic penalty when it comes to time penalties is automatically 5 seconds. That is so
No,
detrimental.
it really is. And I mean, for him, it just happened to be at the worst spot possible for him to move out of having points.
Right.
Like it just so happened to be where he was. And yes, it might not be that bad for, if you're looking P2 to 6, even like it still sucks if you lose a podium, but at least you get points.
I mean, that happened to what I was saying earlier with Carlos. He had an incident, I think it was in Australia. He was going to be P3, and they gave him a 5 second penalty for an incident, which it granted it was technically his fault, but a 5 second penalty for something that was obviously not on purpose.
See, that's the thing too. They need to evaluate, like, was this malicious intent? No, because right there, that would have cleared Yuki. It
Well,
was,
also like Carlos, when that happened to him, he was like, "Let me talk to them. Let me talk to them. It's too severe." Like the no, and same thing with Yuki in an interview after the race today. He was like, "It's too severe. Like 5 seconds is a lot."
yes, it's way too much. So maybe, I don't know, maybe this race will wake them up. They'll reevaluate. I doubt it,
I doubt it.
but because I know a lot of fans, whether or not you're a Yuki fan or which team you belong to, this was not okay. This is unjust.
No, I agree. But overall, I feel like it was an interesting race. Heartbreak for Yuki and Lando, but they're both proven themselves. I feel like Lando
They
just
have.
needs a hug and more of his egg rolls. Let's just order him 17 egg rolls.
I would absolutely send him 17 egg rolls.
I think I would eat them before they got there.
Honestly, yeah, I'm feeling it, but I'm also hungry.
Same. I am too.
But anywho, we still owe any of our listeners out there a F1 basics and history episode, which eventually we will get to. We promise. We do have some busy lives, though. We're trying.
We're working on it, I swear.
We're
We'll
trying
get
so
there.
hard.
We'll get there, I promise.
Stay with us.
But stay tuned. Next race is in a couple weeks. And so hopefully on the week off that we have, hopefully we can get to the like basics kind of background episode. So stay tuned.
Yes, please stay tuned.
Thanks for watching and listening, and please subscribe. Much
Okay,
love.
thanks. Bye.
Bye.